Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to Paws on Animation and our Paws on Manga segment.
Or, in this case, graphic novel, I guess. You want to be specific.
True, yes, graphic novel.
And today we are covering a not so well known book called The Prince and the Dressmaker.
Yes, and this is a fairy tale graphic novel written and illustrated by Jen Wang. And it came out in 2018. But here's why I want to tell you about it. Because The Princess and the Dressmaker tells us the story of a prince named Sebastian who dresses as the glamorous Lady Crystalia by night and his seamstress Frances who befriends the prince and hopes to make her mark on the world of fashion.
Ooh.
But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe for notifications on future podcasts and World of Pause videos.
And thank you so much for joining us today, subscribing, sharing our videos, commenting, everything you do. We appreciate it so much. This book I really want to share with you. I'd never heard of it. I saw it in the library. Well, actually, Rascal saw it in the library. And she picked it up and said it looked interesting. Mm-hmm. And she said, here, you read it first. And then if you like it, then I'll read it.
Right.
And we didn't know what to expect. It kind of reminded us, looking at it, of Princess Jellyfish.
Yes.
And we weren't sure if it was going to be like that or something different. Well, it's similar, but it is really something different.
Right.
And it's a wonderful fairy tale graphic novel because unlike the Princess, I keep saying the Princess Jellyfish, it's Princess Jellyfish.
Right.
It wasn't a fairy tale. It was supposed to take place in real life. This book is written and illustrated by Jen Wang, and it actually was released in 2018. But that doesn't make it any less relevant or enjoyable. It's actually a book that was well received by critics when it originally came out. And the book also won a Harvey Award as well as an Eisner Award. And its film rights were purchased for publication to be adapted by Universal Pictures the same year, immediately after it came out.
Right.
So
they already were jumping on this to adapt.
Right. So it says that Kristen Anderson Lopez, Robert Lopez, and Amy Herzog are attached to this project, and they're supposed to be adapting into a movie musical. That's not what I would have expected.
Yeah, that means they're probably going to add more to the story if they keep the musical element. Like most adaptations do when they turn into a musical, they try to flesh out the characters through songs. And I don't think this story really needs it unless they're going to add in some new plots or something.
Doesn't make sense to me to do that. However, I know that musicals are popular. There are some that we like ourselves. Mm-hmm. But you've got to read this book and see that it's wonderful just as it's written. It's really sweet, and the artwork does remind us of Nimona.
Yes, very much.
But it's very bright, very vivid, and characters are likable. I think that's one thing that we both were surprised at.
Right.
Because sometimes when you get a book, especially when it's a one-shot, we forgot to say this is a one-shot.
Right.
And you get them, and sometimes the characters aren't really likable, but you keep reading, hoping it'll get better, or you keep reading, thinking that something's going to happen that never does. But in this one, it delivers exactly on what the back of the jacket promises.
Yes. And it includes like 2 reviews. Says, how does this book so perfectly combine exquisite and intricate dresses, adorable and lovable characters, and a perfect story about coming to know yourself as an adolescent? Jen Wang is a genius, and I want Frances to design me a dress so I can go to the ballet with Lady Crystalia.
Yes. And yes, absolutely. They're so sweet. You can't help but love them. Now, yes, they do have a couple of bad villains or bad characters.
Right. They're right.
It wouldn't be a fantasy if it didn't.
Right.
But the 2 main characters are absolutely adorable. You like them immediately. And when Prince Sebastian is dressed in Frances's designs, he looks gorgeous. Mm-hmm. And sometimes he has on different colored wigs. I think once his own hair was put up. Mm-hmm. But he loves just dressing in the clothing, and they tell you later on in the book why, so we won't spoil that.
Right.
But during this time he's spending with Frances, they fall for each other. You don't really know that he's fallen till later in the book.
Right. You think it's one-sided at first.
Right, but you know she's falling for him immediately. And it's really sweet. They are teens. I think they're 16.
Yeah, you're right, 16. And we had learned when you get to the end of the book, there's a little bit of sketches, and the author tells you how they inked and drew the sketches for the characters and how they drew the book themselves. They wrote and illustrated themselves like a manga.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually found out that originally they had two different ideas for the story. One version they were adults, and the other version they were teens.
Mm-hmm.
And they stuck with the teenager one because it would retain innocence. Because if it was for adults, it probably would have left room for more people to get a different interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
But it stays clean, it stays wholesome by leaving them as kids, and there isn't a point for someone to think something else ulterior for the story. It just stays perfectly wholesome as it is.
Definitely. Now it says that Wayne wrote the character Sebastian / Cristale as someone who identifies with different modes of gender expression and is comfortable alternating between both masculine and feminine, noting that she might call the character genderqueer, but that other interpretations of the character's relationship to their gender presented by readers are also valid. So she's not marking it as anything in particular. She allows the reader to decide how they view the character. She just presents the character to you. And for the clothing illustrations of the book, she actually researched historical materials on Pinterest. She wanted to feel like something that was fairy tale like and contemporary, but she didn't want to copy historically accurate designs. And she drew the book illustrations on Bristol paper with a mechanical pencil she owned for 6 years.
Wow.
And she inked it with a Winsor & Newton size 2 series Kolinsky sable brush.
Very
Winsor
specific.
& Newton Black India ink. So when you
Very
see
specific.
the book, you'll understand why she got into detail, because you can see it has an appearance of being very deep ink. And now you know why. And everything, well, it's not boxes, what's that called?
The panels?
Thank you. The panels as well as the word bubbles have black outlines, but the characters don't. Some of the fashions have black outlines, but the characters themselves do not. And this is just really a very fun and sweet book to read. Yes, there's a little bit of travel in it where a couple of times things look like they're going to go horribly wrong, but they don't. And I'm really glad it didn't, because this would have made this book something else.
It would have made it like so many other books we've seen where there's a certain push to have a narrative be fact and the reader better like it or the reader is wrong, but they never do that in this book. You're just here to read a great story, enjoy the story, enjoy the characters, and just have a fun time reading. It's a feel-good book, really. It's a feel-good love story and nothing more. And you can see why they want to adapt this into a movie. You just hope that they do it properly, as Bluey would say, because you don't want them to add things and recreate the characters and stuff to something entirely different, and then you get a whole different experience. Just how Nimona was completely different from the graphic novel version, and both have its fans, but it was treated differently because of the time it was made. So hopefully when this does get made or they put on Netflix, they retain it being wholesome and fun for anyone to read.
Absolutely.
There's not even any swearing in here whatsoever.
And you're right, anyone can read this, any age range. It's a safe read for anyone. And again, that makes it immeasurable, just like Artemis Fowl.
Yes.
So I want to tell you a little bit more about Jen Wang. She's actually an American cartoonist, writer, and illustrator based in Los Angeles, and she's known for this specific book.
So that's the greatest work.
Yes. And she's also done one called Coco Be Good in Real Life that she wrote with Cory Doctorow, who I'm not familiar with. And she's the co-founder and organizer for the Los Angeles-based comics festival, Comics Arts LA.
Ooh.
So that's pretty neat. So I thought it'd be interesting to know that she is American. She writes in the style of a manga, but they're graphic novels. And we've seen actually some manga that's being written in the style of graphic novels, but they're manga. One was Pride and Prejudice. One was Jane Eyre. Another was Little Women. And they were fantastic.
Whole series of them, yes.
And we should talk about a couple of those with you. But they were fantastic, and this is what this graphic novel reminded me of when I read it.
and definitely would recommend it to pretty much anybody that enjoys these really wholesome, fun, adorable type stories, and you're looking for something that's a break from, if you want to break from being hard action and adventure, or you don't care for a lot of the books that are out that are more direct in just saying a message by telling a story.
Right.
This is perfect because it's just what it is. You get exactly what it tells you in the description, no more, no less. And you feel like, if you bought it, you got your money's worth. And it's something you could reread many times over.
And it has a happy ending. Not quite the way you expect, but it is a happy ending.
Yes.
For them both, as well as people that are involved with them. I really, really love that.
Which is something that has been lacking in a lot of stories recently with having unhappy endings. So that was a nice surprise.
Absolutely. So, if you've read The Prince and the Dressmaker.
Well, sort of.
Let us know in the comments. And if you haven't, you really should get to your local library and check it out. It might be available, online as an ebook.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see, can you find that? And if you do give it a read, come back and tell us what you think.
And who knows, maybe it will become a movie one day, someday, whenever this was written.
That would be great because this is a fun read.
Right. And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates to video videos for your anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Yes, thank you again for joining us today. Checking out what we like to read and some things we don't like so much. As always,
you are special. Thank you so much for watching Rascal Entertainment.
And Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.
Lights, trying to walk around, man. Who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Met her in my dreams. She was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket. Give it to